Today I'm joined by Luke Falk, former NFL quarterback, Pac-12 record-breaking passer, and author of the Mind Strength Playbook. Luke is now a mind strength coach, helping athletes, coaches, and high performers build resilience, clarity, and peace under pressure. His journey from walk-on at Washington State to elite football and now performance coaching gives him a powerful perspective on what it really takes to succeed in sports and life. Luke, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's great to have you on. It was awesome hearing you on our good friend Reagan Archibald's podcast, Ageless Future. So I'm happy to share your insights with the audience here today.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Look forward to it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your story. You were a walk on at Washington State, and you obviously had great success as a professional athlete as well. So do you want to just give us a little 2 minute story on how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I just started in high school, was playing high school football at Logan High School. There was an older kid that I was splitting time with named DJ Nelson, who's one of the great all-time state of Utah quarterbacks at the high school level. And so him and I were in this thing called the plus one system. So DJ would start the game off, and then I would get the next drive, and then DJ would come back for the third drive. And if he scored, then he got to keep playing until he didn't. And then when he didn't, then I'd come on. And if, I led the team to a score, then I got to keep playing until I didn't. And so that was my sophomore year. And then I had a DJ's younger brother named Chase, who was an amazing high school quarterback as well, who was a year below me. And, I had this quarterback coach who told my parents, he said, your son's in a full Nelson. He's never going to get an opportunity to play fully. And you guys live in Logan, Utah, which is more remote. And so he's not going to get recruited. And so he had convinced that my parents and us as a family that it would be in our best interest to move to California. I could train with him, be closer to him, and then be kind of in this hot spot for college recruiting and be the guy. And so, anyways, my family, we moved there and it didn't work out. I went to Oaks Christian. And if anybody knows anything about Oaks Christian, it's like Hollywood High. I mean, there were actors, sons and daughters going to that school, supermodels. I mean, just you go look up the laundry list of people, and I go from driving with people that have pickup trucks that barely start, going to high school, to G-Wagons as like the lower end of the car. So it was a total culture shock for me. And so family had some issues out there. I didn't play. I started the first couple games and I got benched. So we moved back to Logan, and I went and I watched DJ go win a state championship while I was filming everything because I was deemed ineligible to do that. And then in the recruiting, I got a red flag put on me. So I ended up not getting really any looks at the college level and really only had a couple options. Cornell, which I would have been probably the lowest ACT score ever in the history of an Ivy League to get into Cornell. So I actually committed to go do that. But then the head coach left a couple weeks later. And when I committed, I just kind of felt like, gosh, like I feel like I'm not going after what I can. I feel like I've always wanted to be a Pac-12 quarterback. And then I had this other option, go walk on for Washington State. So that's really how it came to be. And then I played for an incredible coach at Washington, or an incredible coach at Washington State, Mike Leach, who's a Hall of Famer. And without him, golly, I'm not on a podcast. I'm not doing this. I'm not coaching. I'm not doing anything in that regard. So owe him a lot. He said I could come up there and compete just like I was a scholarship player. And
Mm.
people kind of think the Rudy movie of being a walk on, Sunshine and Rainbows. It was not that. But at the end of the day, I did get an opportunity to compete and show them what I had, and it worked out for me and had an incredible career. I was fortunate enough to win a lot of football games and set some records, and then get drafted. And didn't have a great NFL career, and largely we probably talk about it later. But I quit doing the things that got me to be a Pac-12 record-setting quarterback. I quit working on my mind strength, and so it's fun for me now as a coach because I enjoyed playing. I love playing, but I'm much more. I enjoy coaching a whole lot better. Like this is my sweet spot. It was like, my people ask me what I went to school for. I'm like, I truly went to school for coaching and playing, and all those experiences that I learned helped me do what I'm doing today. And as a player, I never really had the 65-yard arm, or I could throw it further than anybody. Like I was pretty average to below average with my athleticism. But as a coach, I kind of feel like I've got the upper hand and the super skills now. So it's a lot of fun for me. And, going from a kid that was unconfident to then learning these skills and learning this mindset to really developing and getting my game to a high level, and then quit working on it and let the trappings of success, and then fall off the cliff in that regard. So I've got to see it from really all three aspects, and now from the coaching aspect, which is a lot of fun to be able to help a kid. I can see when I'm working with somebody or an athlete, I'm like, I can see myself in you, and I know what you're going through. Here's the path that we can go down.
That's so cool. What an incredible story. What are some lessons that you learned from Coach Leach?
Oh gosh, I have like a lot of Leachisms in my book, some fun stuff. I think one of my favorites too, just from a sports perspective, is he always talked about like respect everyone, fear no one. Every time you go into a preparation, like you got to be the same guy. You can't allow the external or the opponent, or maybe it's a talk I'm giving now. Maybe I'm not giving a talk in front of uh, 5,000 people. I'm giving a talk in front of 20. Well, my preparation better be the same. I better respect. And then I also, when I go to those 5,000, you know, people in the stands or whatever, or I'm going into a place that I haven't been necessarily. Well, I can't fear that either, right? Same thing, just going against certain opponents that we played. That's a great one. Another one is just like, I love this idea that he had about taking ownership of everything. He used to tell us as quarterbacks, like all sacks are on the quarterback. And if anybody ever watched my career, they know that I didn't take that to heart, because I led the nation in sacks, I think, every year I've taken them. But you watch football and that's not really accurate. Offensive line might get beat. Maybe there's a protection breakdown with the running back. But it was really genius coaching when I look back on it now, because it's like, if I'm blaming other people, I only improve when they improve. I only improve when my offensive line improves. I only improve when the circumstances are perfect for me. But the way he wanted us to view it is, no, no, no. What can I control? Can I change the play call? Can I get rid of the football? Can I scramble? Can I check it down? And the same aspect can be involved in any other part of the quarterback play. A receiver dropped a ball. Well, did I spend time with them? Did I have the right pace? Was it the right read? Did I put the ball in the right location? And so I love that, because it translates into anything that you do, right? In your business, what can you take ownership of? What are you blaming? What are you making excuses for? And so he had so many examples like that. I was just writing about one right now for my newsletter, talking about the rich kid and the poor kid. And we would start out every training camp with this story from Coach Leach. And he said, you have a rich kid, you have a poor kid, and you have two choices. The rich kid, you can become entitled, you can become all these things from a negative standpoint because you've been given so much and think you don't have to work as hard. Or you can go, hey, you know what? Look at all these opportunities, look at all these resources, and work your tail off to become one of the best. And then the poor kid, you can go, well, look, I don't have all these opportunities. Woe is me. I can't do anything about it. Or you can go, hey, screw this. Nobody's going to work harder than me. I'm going to find my way. I'm going to claw my way out of it. And I love that story at the beginning of each year, because as a football team, you're coming from a guy like me, where I came from an affluent family.
Mhm.
And then I've got a kid right next to me who lived in his car in high school. He came from nothing. And we both have the same choice. We can choose to become the best versions of ourselves, or we can choose to go down a path where we're not going to utilize the talents and gifts that we have. And I liked it personally from a kid coming from wealth, because, a lot of time you hear the story of the people that don't have anything and having that mentality to get there. It was great for me, because I'm like, gosh dang it, I'm not gonna, this is great. I have an opportunity to go be one of the best. I'm not gonna feel guilty about coming from a family where I did have these opportunities. It's just a decision. So I love that. And, really it all came down to just, what are you choosing to do? What are you choosing to focus on? What are you choosing? What person inside of you are you choosing to feed?
I agree 100%. I love that. That's so awesome. It's so amazing. I love how you call them the Leachisms too from your Coach Leach. That's great. And it's so amazing. When I first heard that concept of just taking 100% responsibility, I heard that from Jack Canfield when I read his book, The Success Principles, and it changed my life, because I used to, most people do, right? We just blame my parents, the external world, like, why does that kid have this and I have this? So it's such a powerful thing, right? You just focus on what you can control and what is gonna, and also what you can control your focus. So I love that, man. So cool.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yep. And it's so wild too. When I was playing basketball in college, there were some poor kids on the team, and one in particular, he had to like work at night, and he would like come in exhausted. But he actually was like the hardest worker. He would be diving for balls. He would be like beating people in sprints still. So I love that story too of the rich kid and the poor kid.
Yeah. Yep. All comes down to a decision, right? It's like
Yep.
I got one kid, I won't name his name, but he's the guy that was living in the car,
Yeah.
has tough circumstances. Mom passed away in college, and now he's a lawyer and he's actually on one of the NFL teams on their litigation team. And it's
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
that's all a decision and a choice, and credit to him and the work ethic that he had. And then also, too, really cool because I know he had a lot of great mentorship at Washington State as well. So, it's not solely on you whether you become successful or not, right? You get a team, but ultimately you have to decide what you do with what you have.
Yep. Absolutely. Spot on.
Yeah.
So when you talked about there were certain mind strength habits that you were doing to become one of the, I think it was the Pac-12 record-breaking passer. What were some of those mind strength habits that you were doing?
Yeah, well, just like so early on in my high school career, I kind of had a belief system that you were either born confident or you weren't. And I thought that
Mhm.
I got the short end of the stick. Like I grew up playing little league football and, youth football and all this stuff and baseball, basketball. And I just saw these kids, my friends that were my age, and I'm like, man, what I would kill to have confidence like that. I
Yeah.
guess I can't ever get it. And so the only way that I viewed that I could maybe potentially get a little bit more confident is if I worked extremely hard physically, right? Try to get better at throwing the football or trying to get better within my craft and my technique, which there is something to be said about that. If you don't have at least some baseline competency, you're going to lack in some confidence in that regard. But what I was missing out on is this whole thing from the mindset standpoint of that was when I got into a big game or a big moment. It's like everything I had worked so hard for kind of got locked up on me. I couldn't do my most basic things and basic tasks. And it was like my mind got in my way. It was a big interference for me rather than something that helped elevate me to the next level. So, like I said, my parents were extremely supportive of me and wanted to give me every opportunity. And they introduced me to a guy named Dr. Craig Manning, who was the sports psychologist down at BYU. And he's still running the department there. And he's worked with a number of professional athletes. I think he was working with the Milwaukee Bucks at one point. And Craig showed me that if I worked on my mind just like I did my body, that over time I'd become strong. It's just like my body, it developed mind strength. And it wouldn't happen overnight. And so what Craig did is he created this protocol and this program for me to help me work on these things daily and created a regimen and really a playbook for me to strengthen that aspect of my mind. A number of things that we talked about. Hey, one of the first principles I learned was control the controllable. And he talked about the science behind it. When you focus on things you can control, your anxiety goes down. And if my anxiety goes down, what happens to my performance? It can go up versus what I had been doing. I had been focusing on all the things I couldn't control, right? The outcome, what people thought of me. So my anxiety went high, performance went down. Another aspect that we talked about is like where are you placing your identity? And I didn't get it as enough as a player at that time because I really attached my identity to the outcomes of what people thought of me. But that's a big aspect. The moments that I played my best, my identity wasn't attached to, what the outcome was. It was attached to something greater, right? Maybe a belief in a higher power, values, whatever that looks like for an athlete. For me, personal belief in God. And then I think he just taught me about these skills and these mind strength skills, just like you have physical skills. Like when I'm throwing the football, there's certain things I can do to increase my probability of having a great spiral. Well, there's skills from a mental standpoint that if you do and you execute at a high level can help you then, achieve peak performance. And what we did is we coded these skills and we coded these skills in a short phrase. Like you hear some of the best coaching points of all time, they're short and punchy because they don't confuse. You confuse, you lose. It's too long, you won't remember it. But a skill like I had a skill called Cool Hand Luke. What did Cool Hand Luke mean? I never got too high, I never got too low, and I could control that. So I focused on that, and by me focusing on that and working on that, my anxiety goes down. So then my opportunity for performance goes up, rather than going, oh gosh, I need to complete this pass and focusing on something I can't control. Right? So that was the key of creating skills and building a big skills library, and then being able to access these skills at given parts of whenever I needed them. And it was just like we were constantly doing research and development. It's like, okay, I go back and I watch my game. What I do a good job of. Okay, well, I don't have a skill for that. Let me code that skill. That's something new. And so
Mm,
you're just constantly creating these things. And, so yeah, it was really fun for me. And it's really fun for me to get into it now. But I was so lucky. Craig is, I mean, he was ahead of the game. And I still think he's probably one of the best out there. And I'm sure he's just gotten that much better. But I had a parent ask me one time, he said, what are your credentials? Like, did I go to, did I get my psychology degree or did I get my master's or do I have my doctorate? I'm like, I have RLE. He said, what's that? I said, real life experience. I gotta take Craig's coaching points and live them. And been able to be fortunate to do the same thing with kids now, which I personally think is a whole lot better than maybe some degree of theorizing of how to do something.
I agree, man. 100%. Is Craig still teaching?
hmm I think he is. I know he had that sports psychology class down at BYU. I think he's
Mhm.
the head of their sports psychology department. Um, and everybody I talked to at BYU, I'm like, oh yeah, I worked with Dr. Craig Manning, and they just light up. He's got a great Australian accent. He's a really fun, personable guy. I wish I stayed in contact with him more than I did, and even in the NFL stuff, I quit working on the things that him and I had done, and as a result, there you go. I victim my way out of the NFL.
Mm, yep. Wow. Um, I love how you talk about the mental side, but also pairing it up with the skill side. Because you want to, it's not just like 100%, it's a huge piece, right? Just having that right mindset and the focus and just great belief systems.
Yeah.
And still, you want to back it up with, oh, yeah, let me still equip myself with the actions and the skills that are going to help me actually execute on that. So I love that just that framework where you start with that. I always tell people it starts with the mindset. And then if you do have the right mindset, it's going to get you to actually go and acquire those skills and even believe that you actually can acquire those skills.
Yeah, totally. And I think one of my favorite things that Craig always talked about is, a lot of people have they want certain things, they have dreams, they have goals, they have whatever. But Craig always talked about it comes down to action. Life's about action. And I could have the best mindset ever, but if I don't act on it and I don't go acquire those skills like you're talking about, well, nothing's going to happen in my life. And so, anyways, I think there's a lot of people that kind of overthink certain things and they just kind of have paralysis by analysis. Maybe they have a good mindset, but they're just afraid to act.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Right there, spot on. So your book is called I'm pulling it up right here, the Mind Strength Playbook. Master your mind, elevate your game.
Yep.
So and tell us more about the book a little bit. And it's yeah, tell us more about the book.
Yeah, so in 2020, I was done playing, and I'm 25 years old. I had a quarter life crisis, I called it, gone all this journey, and I'm just asking, what do I want to do with my life? And, earlier I had told my dad in 2015, I said, Dad, I want to do what Wayne Dyer does. I want to write books, I want to speak, I want to coach, I want to help people become the best versions of themselves. So that had stuck with me. And in 2020, I'm going through my own challenges and trying to figure out what I want. And I got thinking, I'm like, well, when I was in college, there was this bridge program. It was a one credit class that we had at Washington State for athletes, and they would teach on concepts and skills on things that weren't traditionally part of the school system. We read a book called Who Moved My Cheese. It's kind of like leadership stuff. And I got thinking, I'm like, well, how cool would it be if I created a curriculum of mind strength and I could go coach it at Washington State? I'd be an adjunct professor, and then maybe I can scale it from there. And so I ended up creating this curriculum based on the things I had read, the things I had done with Craig, the things I had done within my own personal experiences. And so I just started kind of breaking it down, and I went through my notes, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's about this and that's about this. And that's how I created the book. It was like, all right, so the book's really created in a way that can, you implement it. It's very sequential, just like you would be, an 8-week course or an 8-week class.
Yep.
And started coaching on it. I was doing private quarterback coaching at the time, so I worked with it, implemented those teachings, got into college coaching, did the mind strength portion with it. And when I was a coordinator, we implemented some mind strength at part of our meetings during the spring. And we did like a little evaluation at the end, like, hey, what do you want more of? What do you want less of? What do you want going into the fall? And man, so many people said, we want more mind strength because I think people are starving for it. They know that it could be a great edge for them. They know that they need it. And so I got out of college coaching and just, one day I'm like, I want to get this book done. I want to, enough about wanting this dream, this idea, let me go ahead and make it happen. And when you get down that path, you start looking for and finding solutions. You start asking people and things start kind of align, and got in touch with the right agent, got in touch with the right, he became my publisher too. And it just, things happen so quickly. And now I look at the book and I'm like, man, that's pretty awesome. And just like any team event or team win, it doesn't all come down to you. I had so many great people working on this book. And so anybody that wants to publish a book, they should definitely go look at Mason Barrow. They're incredible. So anybody that listen to this, go check out Mason Barrow. But really got to have a lot of creative content and control over it, and just totally professional white glove service throughout the entire process.
What is it? Mason Barrel is the name of the
Mason
publisher?
Barrow with a V,
Okay.
Vero, Mason Barrow. Yeah.
Yep, cool. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes for people that are interested in that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so great to have, again, just the right team around you, just like anything. That's why I love basketball and football too, right? Just like it's never one person, obviously. So, but you learn
Yeah.
so great skills just being able to find the right people to, and also trust and build those connections with people.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
nice. I love how you framed it and structured it out as like a 8 week curriculum. And you also taught it
Yeah.
as an adjunct professor at a
I
university.
haven't. I haven't. I'm actually
Oh,
talking to Washington State right now because now I've created it into a program, an
yeah,
online program that people go through, get Mind Strength certified. So I actually go sell that to athletic departments because
cool.
I view there's a big need, right? It's like, hey, what are we doing to help equip this next generation who's got a lot of external things, and they
Yep.
call it the anxious generation. I'd love to help them become the Mind Strength generation and actually learn these skills and these tools. So.
That's great. The anxious generation to the mind strength generation.
Yeah, yeah, that's a real goal and mission of mine.
That's awesome, man. That's a beautiful big mission. It's so cool, right? It's like every athletic department should have a curriculum like this in the department. So if they don't, it's like that's a great. Uh,
Yeah, I think we've raised a lot of awareness with mental health and all that stuff. And I'm
yeah,
not claiming that this is mental health by any means. That's why I call it mind strength. I view it more like, working on just like you do your body. It's like prehab.
yeah,
Um, but I don't think there's a lot of action of how we actually help the kids and the athletes. We have a lot of reactive. It's like,
yep,
once you've kind of fall over the waterfall, great, we have all these resources for you, but there's not a lot of things that I think I heard Tony Robbins talk about. Like he wants to work upstream before everything happens. And that's kind of where this mind strength comes into play. And then it's at a price too for these athletic departments where, you go hire somebody. All right, great. You got to pay them 60,000 minimum plus this thing, you can achieve and have the same results and even better and touch everybody for a much, 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 much cheaper price. So,
yep. I love that. Yep, so
yeah.
true. It is switching from that reactive mode and yeah, being downstream versus going upstream. And I love that quote from Benjamin Franklin: "An ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure."
Yeah.
Same with being an athlete, right? It's like most
Yeah,
people,
totally.
you just push so hard, they're always killing themselves. But like LeBron, he spends so much time and money in his recovery, so that's why he is still dominating 23 years later in the NBA.
Yeah.
And same with
Tom Brady,
yeah,
LeBron. I mean, it's the same deal. So, and,
yeah,
as an entrepreneur, if you're not doing the proper things to be able to, talk about the ounce of prevention, well, you're going to be struggling and with burnout and all these things after time too. That's another Leachism if you want to know it, like Leach time. Leach in the off season, he went to Key West. He hung out. He had a great time. Whereas most coaches are paranoid, stuck in their office, trying to figure out how to win a game on September 5th. And Leach just got away from it all. And then when he came back, he had this thing called football time. And when you're in football time, great, you're dialed in. But when you're out of football time, let your hair down, like
yeah,
enjoy, relax. And I could be a lot better at that.
yep. What does he call that time when he's out of football time? What is it called?
Well, I called it Leach time. So he had
Yeah,
football time. He said football time. I called the thing outside of football time, Leach time. So whatever your football
Yeah.
time is, go enjoy some Leach time in the evenings or
Yeah.
whatever.
It's so true. It's I love this concept my coach told me actually, where it's like you can't fully go all in if you can't unplug fully also. But
Uh,
most people, especially entrepreneurs, right, they're just kind of always burning the candle at both ends, even on the weekends. So I always tell my clients and just people that ask, I'm like, you got to be able to unplug and just get rid of your phone, be in nature, and be with your
yeah,
family. And yeah, so I love that. That's a great another Leachism. That's great.
Leach, he's got a lot of them. Got a lot
Yeah,
of them.
that's cool. And Tom Brady is another good example too, right? I remember him. I read his book TB12. Talks about how much he focuses on recovery with the like kind of softening and lengthening of the muscles and
Yeah,
things like that.
pliability. Yep.
Yeah, pliability, exactly. I see on your website too. There was a photo of you and Tom on the football field. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so like I'm sure you're a Tony Robbins fan, given that
Yeah,
we're in this space, and his principle or his tool of modeling, and Tom's who I wanted to model. So I
yeah,
watched everything on Tom, and at lunch I would YouTube Tom Brady. I saw you read the Four Agreements. I read the Four Agreements. I saw I went to Tom House. I went to Tom House. It's like he's doing this method. Okay, how can I do this method? I went to TB12, and it was funny because he was the sixth round pick 199. I was a sixth round draft pick 199. His
wow,
first career, yeah, it's like all these similarities. His first career
yeah,
start was in his second year, game three, and he played Peyton Manning. Well, mine was, year two, game three, and I played Tom Brady in my first career start. So it's pretty
damn,
funny how things aligned. I'm like, yeah, you really can model somebody. The problem
yeah,
is I quit doing those things when I got to that part. So
yeah,
instead of playing 23 years, I played 2 years.
yeah. That's so crazy, man. That you played the best football player ever in your first start. That must have been wild. Wow.
Yeah, I joke with people I would have loved to have played like, the Jaguars or somebody else. Maybe I'd still
Yeah,
be playing, but that was pretty cool to be able to get that moment. And I have so much respect for him and what he was
yeah,
able to accomplish. So I mean, pretty cool. Pretty
yeah,
cool that was able, and he was great after the game. I'm sure he had known that I was a huge fan of his, and I'm sure whatever, but yeah, he was just nothing but respectful and kind to me.
yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think it was for you why you stopped doing your mind strength habits in the NFL? Are you aware of what that was? Or you just kind
Yeah, well,
of,
I think like I look at Tom Brady and he loved football. Like he's internally motivated. I'm sure
yeah,
there's some external fuel, right? He was overlooked, over whatever, but at the end of it, he really enjoyed what he was doing. And
yeah,
I think playing, like, I enjoyed a lot of aspects of it, but I really didn't love the internal drive. I really did it for a lot of the external stuff.
yep,
And when I had achieved some of those external things, well, it's like my fuel got burnt up.
yeah,
And so that was a big part. I think the environment I had around me at the time, I didn't do a good job of auditing the people in my life and, the core five. You really, it's like the old cliche, you become like the five people you spend most time with. I really hadn't done a good job of setting boundaries and getting the right people in my life that were going to help me elevate to the next level. And so I got burnt out. I
yep,
can sympathize with the entrepreneur because I didn't do what it took early on with the same intensity, passion, all those things beforehand.
yeah,
Um, and so I just got to that point, and you know what? I look back on it though, and I'm glad it happened because it had put me on a path of what I'm doing now.
hmm,
Um, and now I have that perspective. But during that time, yeah, I didn't have any gas in the tank,
yep,
and there's a good reason why, because I probably wasn't as motivated to be
yeah,
uh, an NFL player.
yep. Those are great mind strength habits, right? Just do it and make sure you're connected to your why and the reasons, and also making sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people as well, probably.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think you could be Michael Phelps, you could be the greatest swimmer in the world, and if you
Yeah,
keep swimming in a current that is pulling you down, eventually it'll get you. You're going to tire. You're going to get to that point. Now,
yep,
you as the person have to take ownership of, why am I swimming in that current? Why don't I go float on my back in the calm water over here? Or anyways, or go get a life jacket on or something. And that's where I have to take ownership in that regard. These people were just in my life, and I could have set boundaries. I could have done things differently, had different conversations, and all learning though.
Yep, absolutely. And now you're doing what it sounds like you're even here more to do with your gifts, right? Coach people, and you have great wisdom and experiences from what you did on your journey to what you're doing now.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I really love
Yeah,
coaching.
yeah,
I really love coaching college football. I mean, it's a little bit crazy right now with kind of that stuff. So hopefully they can calm it down and get the transfer portal more calmed down so you can develop a kid instead of just being with them for 6 months and then he takes some money and going somewhere else. But yeah, anytime that you can help somebody kind of unlock what they can't unlock within themselves or give them some tools that then they give the power to them, I think it's awesome.
yeah. So how much? So when you're working with athletes, do you do you have like a like do you sit down with them and like teach them some mental habits and kind of educate them, or like how does it work when you're with that, or is it just on the field, or like how do you kind of just work with athletes?
Yeah, so now I don't do really anything on the field. It's all just
Yeah,
kind of how we're doing now. That's kind of the
yeah,
day and age that we're in. But it's really like, what are they struggling with? What are they
yep,
wanting to accomplish? And then a lot of it is you just ask a ton of questions to see where their headspace is at, what's motivating them,
yep,
what are the interferences in their life. And a lot of the times it comes down to, their need for approval is just so dang high. And if I get them to play with house money and release the need for everybody to like them or them being worried about what mom and dad think or what
yep,
coach thinks or any of that stuff. It's a really big one. And in fact, one of the mind strength exercises, in fact, I'm about to do it with one of my clients is, Mom and Dad, I don't want you to go to their game tonight. Right. I know you love being at their game. You're not going to their game tonight. What often happens is that the kid, like I had been in this situation, you go for 20 points or you play your best night, and it's because they're not looking over their shoulder. They're not worried about what mom and dad are thinking. So their anxiety levels aren't high and they can just play free. They can play loose. And it's not like a bad thing against mom and dad. Maybe mom and dad are really supportive and it's just like the kids need to want to have them get their approval is so dang high. Or you have other cases where, mom and dad are very overbearing or whatever. But it's really just kind of case by case. Maybe there's a kid that's struggling with, they're really good, but they just can't seem to have like the next step. Okay, what's the belief system? Like you talked about, retraining somebody's belief system. Okay, why can't you think you can take the next step? Why do you keep self-sabotaging and pulling yourself back down to, be in the middle of the pack when you are somebody that has the ability to be a top player?
yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's just kind of like every game you go into, you think it's going to be blank, and then okay, well, they're playing cover four now, and we got to go to our cover four beater. It's the same deal. It's like I got staples, and what are they doing? Okay, now I need to get to this one, and you might not get it on the first however many tries, but as you continue to work with somebody, there's a good chance that you're going to find what they need, and if you don't, then try to go refer them to somebody else. But I haven't had that happen yet, so thankfully.
Yeah, that's great, man. So cool. Well, just by having somebody like yourself to confide in that's not going to judge somebody and just listen, you're already like 50%, you're already at the 50-yard line in my experience, right? When I'm coaching
Right.
clients, like having somebody you could talk to without them judging back, or even a lot of times people think they're giving advice, but they're projecting their own beliefs on the other person. And parents do this a lot as well, because
Oh
again,
yeah.
it's hard to make that kind of that dissonance. So that's so cool, man, that you're able to do that for these athletes. And I'm sure it is crazy pressure, man. I knew some of it playing basketball in college, but it is a lot of pressure that it's kind of like a catch-22 sometimes, where a lot of our fuel is coming from the fact that we need to like be validated and we're not good enough, and not just in sports, but a lot of times the top athletes also have that too. So that's cool that you're able to help them access a different fuel and feel better about themselves.
Yeah. And doesn't mean they're going to be perfect at it. Shoot, I'm not. I mean, like, I
Yeah.
want approval. And there's some times that I feel I need approval. And it's just,
Yep.
you got to work the skills. You got to work it. You got to get and occupy the space. So it's like brushing your teeth, right? You can brush it one day and they're clean for that day. But if you don't keep doing the work, eventually they'll rot. So it's just trying to keep them and keep the processes. And then most important, I think you probably agree with this is, you're not living it yourself as a coach, it's really hard to coach that. So I will always want to be mindful of what I'm doing. And at the same time, not feeling like I have to be perfect because I'm a human. I'm going to make errors and make mistakes. I had struggled with that early on. If I'm not just perfect robotic, then oh my gosh, I'm a fraud. No,
Yeah.
that's not the case. Human experiences, and I think mind strength is the ability to recover. Do you have the skills to recover when you get a little off track?
Mhm.
And yeah.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Yep. What part of your message do young athletes need most right now in a world full of comparison and noise?
I would say the take ownership one. I
Yeah.
think there's society wants you to blame somebody else or somebody else's fault, or it's that political party, or it's that race, or it's that
Yep.
socioeconomic class. And I just think that if you take ownership of your life, you'll look for and you'll find solutions. If you allow victim minded to come in, you're going to look for and find excuses. So you'll get what you're looking for. And I think for this younger generation, it's like, where are you putting your focus? And I think that can help them tremendously.
Mm, totally. I agree. What's one word that defines great leadership?
Um, hmm, I would say elevate, and
Yeah.
why I say that is the Leach. I love Leach's definition of leadership is the ability to elevate the group. Whatever that looks like for you, comes in a number of different forms. Growing up playing quarterback, people always told me it had to be like the vocal out in front, and that wasn't my style. So when I
Hmm.
got to with Leach, okay, if the end product is just the ability to elevate the group, okay, I can find my own unique way to be able to do that. So I think leadership, elevate. That your job
Yeah.
is to get the most out of the group that you're leading.
Yep. How would you do that?
Well, there's a number of different ways, I think.
Yeah.
First, I think you have to be authentic to who you are as a leader. If
Yep.
I'm trying to be the loud, out in front, vocal type of guy, I'm more so going to be self-conscious and worried what how I'm viewed, and it takes my mind off of something I can control and it puts it on something I can't. So my anxiety level's high. How am I supposed to lead if my anxiety level's high? And then people can smell inauthenticity. So first thing is, who are you? And what are you going to be able to do consistently? It's like even on social media. Like I'm not a guy that's going to consistently post short reel videos of like 20 to 30 seconds of me talking to my car. It's not me. That's inauthentic. But I can write and I will write every week and I will be
Mhm.
able to do that. Great. That's authentic and that's how my message can get out.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. And then, there's some other leadership tactics, but I think it all comes down to what type of deposits are you putting in the people that you're leading? Do you have a relationship with them outside of the arena? If you do, probably more likely able to push them, or you're going to know them personally, so you know how they tick. Maybe so and so needs that button pushed, or maybe they need, an arm around them, or whatever. Um, yeah.
I
But
love
there's
that.
a great in the book. If people go and get the book,
Yeah.
one of my favorites is the Oreo method. So go look up the Oreo method because I think if your goal is to elevate the group, a lot of times leadership standpoint, well, you really end up doing the opposite, especially if you are critiquing somebody in front of the whole group in general. They just kind of shut down. So this Oreo method it's a tried and true method of, hey, this is a great way and a technique to be able to get the most out of somebody.
Nice. Well, it's a great name for the method. So,
Yeah, yeah. For all you health, biohackers and stuff, sorry for the Oreo method. We could
yeah.
call it the lettuce wrap method.
Yeah. My fiance loves Oreos. I've been trying to get her to stop eating them, but she can't help it.
She can't break the habit.
Yeah. But and then I love as on your website too. There is the Mind Strength Mastery program as well. That's great. So people can actually go
Yep.
deeper with the tools.
Yep. So that's just like the book as the format, going through it and be able to get Mind Strength certified. It's got exercises on there. What I wanted to do is there's a lot of books where I'm like, oh, this is amazing, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to implement it. And my sports psychologist taught me that knowledge without application is, not, or it's not power, right? But the
Yeah.
application of knowledge is power. And so the whole program that I wanted to create is, hey, this is how you apply it. It's black and white roadmap. Do this, this, and this. Follow these steps, and you're going
Yeah.
to be able to have a great foundation of mind strength.
Yep. So cool. I love that. I love it,
Yeah.
man. One of my favorite things about playing sports was just it's fundamentals, right? Basketball, everything, right? Every sport, but for me, basketball, it was like, all right, just make sure I get in my dribbles every day, make sure I get my free throws in every day, make sure I get my jump shots in every day, make sure I do my sprints every day. And if you're just consistent and you do the fundamentals, And again, the results will come. And again, the challenging part is sometimes we intellectualize, but yeah, I know this, and then we don't do it. So that's the tricky part where sometimes we like over outsmart ourselves, which actually isn't outsmarting ourselves or kind of screwing ourselves over. We're like,
The
oh, I know
form
how to
of
do
getting
this.
ourselves in our way, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
So,
not
but I love
seeing
it.
the results initially and then giving up. And,
Yup.
I'm sure people could do that within the being an entrepreneur and all that. It's like you got to put a lot of work in and maybe you won't see the fruits of your labor, but you just got to keep pumping that, pumping that well, get that water
Yup.
going.
Exactly. And that's what it sounds like your book is, which I love, man. It just sounds like a lot of really powerful principles that are timeless, that if you do them, you're going to get results. And if you don't, obviously you won't get results. So
Yeah.
it sounds pretty amazing, man. That's awesome.
I
Um,
appreciate it.
yeah, 100%. And I have a couple other questions for you before we wrap up pretty soon. Um, what, if somebody wants to improve their mindset, what's one habit that can help them do that?
I really like it's like one of the most practical skills and tools is I really like breath work,
Yeah.
and I use a technique called the 4-6 breathing method,
Hmm.
and you breathe in and out through your nose 4 seconds and then 6 seconds because it's so very tangible. And what I like to tell my athletes is you got to work on it daily. So start a minute a day and then build yourself up to 5 minutes. Do that a minute a day for a week and then build up to 5 minutes. But the nice part is when you catch yourself getting anxious or you got that anxiety going, well, you're focused on things you can't control. And when you focus then on your breath, that's what you can control. And when you count in your head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're in the present moment. And when you have that stylistic of breathing, you're telling your body, hey, we can calm down. You're getting that parasympathetic going rather than your sympathetic. So I think that's one of the greatest skills and tools somebody can do to help improve their mindset. I know for me, last year I had been battling some health stuff, and my mind would go to the future, worry about, oh God, is it this, is this, this? And I actually had a number of panic attacks last year, and I had pulled myself out of them at certain points, and maybe even prevented some in the future because I was able to then start working on my breath work. Not saying I'm perfect in that regard and anything, but it has been a lifesaver for me of all right, my mind is going down this path again. And all right, I need to pivot. I need to get out of it. Okay. And try to focus on my breath.
So true.
So, yeah,
Breath is
it's like
such
a
a powerful,
lifeline. Yeah.
yeah, it's such a powerful tool. There's patterns of breathing that get people anxious and depressed and nervous and scared, and there's patterns of breathing that get people calm and regulated and confident and ready to execute.
hmm
What about, do you like to meditate at all?
Well, I think my form of meditation is when I do my breath work
Breath
or if
work?
I go
Yep.
sit in the red light or something.
Yeah.
Or, it's like, what do you define as meditation? Like going on walks and stuff. But
Yep.
the classic sitting down, legs crossed,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever really mastered that to a certain degree. I've quieted my mind and been able to get it off of being on a
Yep.
number of different things, but that would be my form of meditation.
Yeah. That's great. How do the
Yeah.
athletes respond when they when they do that breathwork protocol where you get them to just start a minute a day up to 5 minutes? How have you seen the results from athletes when you suggest that to them and they do it?
Yeah. Well, it's one of their favorite things because like I said, it's not like this theory. It's not something like an abstract idea. It's something they can really do. And as an athlete, I think you're so focused or you're so used to, hey, go do this, when you're going to work out in the gym or something. So for them to have something tangible like that, they really hold on to it and they feel it. When you teach them how to breathe properly, they go, oh, wow, I really do kind of feel that shift going on. And then as they continue to get better, great. And then within the program, I've got guided stuff because I always felt, I mean, it's easier for me to get guided through something than it is for me to do it on my own. So I've got guided and they really like it in that regard. So that and then the guided visualization stuff they really enjoy, but because it's
Yep.
tangible, it's like, all right, I can work on it. And then like I joke with them, I had a buddy, I give these talks all over the country and I had one of my friends come to my talk and he called me a week later. He goes, hey, Luke, you're full of shit. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, that 4-6 breathing didn't do anything. I was on the golf course and I had this money I was playing or betting against this guy, and my nerves were through the roof. And I tried to do the 4-6 breathing, and I couldn't calm him down. And I was shinkopotamus all day. And I just asked him, I'm like, well, how often did you work on it? beforehand? He said, well, I did. I'm like, well, there you have it. You gotta work on it in order for you to access it. If you don't work on it, you won't be able to access it in that time. So I like to share that story with the kids. It's like, if I'm a quarterback and I don't ever throw comebacks in practice, why would I think I'm going to complete a comeback in a game? So
Mhm.
same thing with the mentality, same thing with mind strength skills. You got to work them.
Absolutely, 100%. It's a great metaphor. Yep, you got to practice it so you're ready for it when the real game time matters in real life.
Yeah, totally. When you
So
get
I
hit in the
love,
mouth.
yeah. Do you teach about, because that's what's so cool about the the nervous system regulation, parasympathetic and sympathetic. Because I love that piece because it's actually real science and people actually can understand that. Because again, when you're in these certain breathing patterns, get you into your sympathetic when you're freaking out, fight or flight, and there's other ones
Yep.
that get you into your parasympathetic where you're like that's how Tom Brady does get into that championship mindset probably where he's like for him it's like they're down by a touchdown with 2 minutes left he could regulate his nervous system whether he's aware of it or not, and he could just execute and get the job done. Or Michael Jordan as well. So do you like
Right.
teach people like about the nervous system regulation?
Well, in the book, I talk about parasympathetic and sympathetic just with the breath work. I actually
Yeah.
went to this place called Cognitive FX for, they specialize because I had some head trauma playing football, had some concussions and stuff. And so I went there, and a lot of them and a lot of their training is all about regulating the nervous system. So I actually learned a whole lot more about it by
Oh,
going through their program and their protocol and finding ways to be able to, I knew nothing about the vagus nerve. Reagan had talked to me about the vagus nerve beforehand,
yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, yeah, okay, that's woo woo. What is that? And now it's like, okay, how do I stimulate the vagus nerve? How do I get myself into that more, calm headspace and that parasympathetic rather than getting into my fight or flight? Because a lot of times what happens with people who have had concussions or TBI or something like that, or maybe even a bad viral infection, is it throws your nervous system out of whack, and then you end up being in the fight or flight. You end up being sympathetic the whole time. And so then all these nervous system issues happen. And that's what happened currently that I'm going through right now. So it's like my body's just been stuck in this sympathetic. So I'm currently working on, okay, what are these techniques that I can do to help me get out of this? And so it certainly is going to be a whole lot more of an emphasis for me moving forward with my athletes because it's just another thing on my belt. If I have the proper perspective, I'm like, okay, this is a great learning for me to be able to help kids moving forward. Now, when I
That's
get into my victim mindset, I'm like, why the hell am I going through this? Why me? Why is going on? But so to answer your question, not enough. Don't do enough of it, but I'm learning more about it.
that's cool. Well, you did have the record, I think you said, for the being sacked the most. You said in the Pac-12, is
Yeah,
that right?
when everybody says like yeah, you got all these Pac-12 records, I'm like, yeah, yeah, I got the sack, the negative rushing yards. So
What's one cool thing you did learn from the cognitive FX training about the nervous system?
I think one of the coolest things is, and this is like being an athlete, being able to be physical, is they had us spike up our heart rate as high as we could get it. Like kind of the interval training, 30 seconds, push as hard as you can. I think I got to like the 93% of my heart rate. And then they want you to go sit down immediately and try to get your heart rate as calm down as
Oh
quickly as
yeah.
possible. So what you're doing is you're training your nervous system. Hey, this is sympathetic. And then, hey, this is parasympathetic. And then also you're creating the blood flow to your brain. So then you're ready for all the cognitive tasks that they have you do. But I felt like that was one of the coolest things. So I've been diagnosed with having POTS, which is when you stand up, your blood pressure doesn't regulate and all that stuff, right? It's an autonomic nervous system issue. By doing their program and their protocol, I felt like my pot symptoms significantly got better.
Wow.
Where, I had stood up and I didn't feel my heart going boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that for me was a great takeaway. And then they've got a great, routine and regimen. I also think too, they didn't necessarily say this, but they certainly implied it. It's like, not only do you have to retrain your nervous system from a physical standpoint, but there are also these mental and emotional things that you have got to release and let go of as well. So I'm in the process of, people want to look up like journal speak. I think this gal, I can't remember, it's like Mind Your Body. And it's just about, letting go of maybe things that have, uh, you've been holding on to before that have got your body out of whack, that have dysregulated your nervous system, some things that have created quote unquote trauma to a certain degree. And maybe
Yeah.
you stuffed them, maybe you didn't, process them fully. For me, had some things go on in my life, and as an athlete, it's like I needed to compartmentalize. I needed to be ready for the next task. So what I had done is just suppress, stuffed, put it away, and thought it was good. But really, what was going on is on the inside, things weren't. It was kind of tearing me up from that standpoint. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I think there's a total mental, emotional, spiritual component as well, not only with the
Totally.
physical stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Letting go of the just whatever emotional, psychological. Sometimes we get blockages stored up in our nervous system. Yeah.
Totally. Yep,
That's cool. The
totally.
cognitive FX thing sounds cool. So you would go all out for 30 seconds and then would you could do anything, just try to regulate your breathing, just to relax as quick as
Yeah, so they
possible.
really
Yeah.
want you to do that diaphragmatic breathing,
Yeah.
longer exhales than inhales. They really like the 4-6 method as well. But when you first get off the bike, it's kind of hard to do that. They actually
Yeah.
put some cool stuff on you, like they get cold on you to try to get your heart rate down.
Yeah.
Um, if anybody is struggling with I thought that if you had a head injury or anything in that regard, there's just nothing you can do about it. It's just, hey, I can't do anything about it. It's not like an ankle. I roll an ankle. I can go get physical therapy. These guys are awesome. They're in Provo, Utah. I'll say, it's definitely an investment. But if you're somebody that struggled with, just not feeling like your best after maybe a certain
Yeah.
injury or something, or you feel like my memory's not there, or fatigue. I think people that have POTS now, they got a POTS protocol because that's become so much more prevalent after the whole COVID, whether, vaccine or whether you got COVID itself. There's some stuff in that regard.
That's cool. I'm checking out their website. I'll make sure to include that in the show notes as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, man, this was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing everything, man. This is really amazing. If people want to find you or get your book, how can they do that?
Just go to coachlukefalk.com. You can do that. That's my website. And then if you want
Yep.
the book, just you can type in Luke Falk on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or the Mind Strength Playbook. And then same thing on social media. Everything's Coach Luke Falk. So if you want to I got a free newsletter. People want to sign up for it. Like I said, I
Yeah.
just try to make these short little stories here and there and not make them so prescriptive. That was the thing about the book. I had made it so prescriptive before, and then my wife and my sister read it and they're like, all right, you got to put your story in there. So it was fun because it's very cathartic for me of going back and so I
Yeah.
think people will be able to get a kick out of it of seeing themselves within my own story. It's like I definitely it's not a robotics book by any means. It
Yeah.
it definitely follows a formula, but a lot of people have really enjoyed it.
That's awesome, man, for sure. Well, I look forward to reading it. I'm going to make sure to get it when I get back to LA. We're in Colombia now for the next few weeks, but when I get back, I'm going to dig into it. And yeah, anybody listening, I highly recommend you check it out and listen. Not just athletes, anybody, right? These are
Yeah,
not just
yeah.
skills for athletes. These are skills for business people, entrepreneurs, everybody,
Yep, totally.
right? Awesome, Luke. Thanks so much, man. And what's your final departing message for the audience?
Oh man, I would say if you master your mind, you'll certainly be able to elevate your game, whatever game that is, and most importantly, your life. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, man.